couldn't handle that. Nope, they couldn't handle that. If they really knew the fact, yeah, they really don't. To have a gift, it is a curse.
Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, and in this series we're going to be going over Pluto in the houses, okay? Pluto in the houses, and in this episode we're going to be talking about the 5th house, so having Pluto in your 5th house. And of course, before we get into that, I just want to remind you guys to check out my new single, Can't Take the Throne. If you enjoyed the little snippet of music in the beginning of this video, that's my new single. You can check it out on Spotify, Apple Music, and here on YouTube, simply by typing my name, Sam Dolphin. Also, be sure to follow me on TikTok, or check me out on TikTok as well too. My name is Sam_Dolphin. And finally, if you want to book a reading, I do astrology readings as well as tarot. All you have to do is email me at samastroreadings@gmail.com, samastroreadings@gmail.com, and we could go forward with that. So, getting back into Pluto in the 5th house. And the first thing I can say about Pluto in the 5th house is that this is lots of trauma in your childhood, okay? This is childhood trauma, and this is because the 5th house rules your childhood, your childlike self, your child personality. 5th house rules children, and it's because as a child you have a sort of free spirit and free expression and innocence about you, you know, that you don't have when you're an adult, because as you grow older you get conditioned with all these responsibilities and you become more adult-like. So, but when you're a child, there's this innocence and this kind of freshness and spirited energy that's natural in a child. That's why fun is associated a lot with children and playing around and all of that stuff. This is the 5th house. The 5th house is all about your freedom of expression, being childlike, having fun, just expressing yourself, you know? So with Pluto here, Pluto being the planet of trauma, putting you through emotional obstacles, there is lots of obstacles and trauma when it comes to your childhood, okay? In your it could just be simply like during your childhood, you dealt with a lot of abuse in your younger days, or people took advantage of your innocence as a child, okay? Maybe your childhood reminds you of a lot of the tragedies that happen, you know, within your family, the lack of protection, the abuse to your innocence, you know, because children are very innocent and they don't know better. People take advantage of that, and that's how you get lots of abuse as a child. And that's where you get the whole childhood abuse and everything, you know. But this is very apparent in Pluto in the 5th house, okay? And it could get really deep. It could be, you know, real like physical abuse as a child, or it could just be abandonment as a child, or certain incidents and traumas that happen to you as a child that really stain you and like have an issue with you. And now anytime you think about your childhood or children or that energy, it's like you're dealing with that trauma and those issues that you had to deal with. So Pluto in the 5th house is very much childhood trauma, okay? And this is gonna affect you traumatically, because like I said, your childhood, that's when you're innocent, okay? And you're easily, you can easily be influenced as a child, manipulated. So these types of abuse, they go a long way, okay? Because how you're affected as a child is going to affect you when you get older. So with Pluto in the 5th house, these childhood trauma, it goes a long way. It goes into your adulthood. It goes into the way that you act. It goes into the way that you feel about yourself. It affects a lot of areas in your life, because our childhood is the root to everything. All the things that we experience in our childhood, they're gonna stem later into our lives, into our psychology and how we feel emotionally, mentally, and everything. So it's a deep placement on Pluto in 5th house. You know, your childhood wounds, that's your roots. It's very similar to what I spoke to about the 4th house, being our family, how we're nurtured, how much that can impact you. Same here with the 5th house with our childhood wounds. Like, our childhood self, that youngness in ourselves that's being abused and manipulated, it goes a long way into our adulthood, and it affects us way beyond our childhood years. So very important with Pluto in the 5th house that there is in some way, somehow, some type of trauma coming with our associated with our childhood. That leads me to the second point, which is very true. With Pluto in the 5th house, okay, this is not everyone, but it's a possible manifestation, and sexual abuse as well with children. Pluto definitely does rule all types of abuse, physical, emotional, mental, as well as sexual as well too, which is, physical abuse. This could be a big part, and again, we know that with sexual abuse, again, it goes a long way, okay? With Pluto in the 5th house here, this is a possible manifestation as well too, depending on how your Pluto is aspected. But sexual abuse as a child can definitely be a manifestation with this placement. This placement is not all Pluto placements in general. This whole Pluto series, there's just going to be a lot of, deep things to be talked about. Pluto rules abuse in general, like it really does. Other planets deal with it too, but Pluto is very intentional because, again, as dark and as sad and as traumatic as it is, it's things that we have to go through in order for our souls to transform. So Pluto's a very tough, challenging placement, and just like I said, it rules abuse, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. It can also rule, sexual abuse too. It deals with sexual abuse is no exception here. So when I talk about, again, with childhood trauma, peeking back to that, this is what I mean, when you're going through abuse as a child, being taken advantage of as a child in any type of form, whether it be physical, sexual, mental, whatever, taking advantage of your innocence, okay? This is what creates the childhood trauma, okay? But definitely be mindful of that. There is definitely sexual abuse when it comes to Pluto. So with that being said, Pluto in the 5th house people can have a very strong sexuality as well too, okay? So when we talk about the 5th house deals with sex as well too, but in a more expressive way, more about our fun, our leisure, and how we express ourselves. But then when you add Pluto here, Pluto adds depth, okay, and deepness, okay, and even like a mystery or something alluring. But you combine these energies and you get strong sexuality. People with Pluto in the 5th house can have very strong sexual expressions, okay? And, this could be a good thing or a bad thing. It could be very attractive, but it can also be because of being exposed to sex at an early age, So, it comes with its, pros and cons, but because of that, it could develop in a person a very strong sexuality. Again, expressing yourself sexually a lot, or dressing in a certain way. Pluto and 5th house people can dress very, sexually. They can just express themselves that way, gain a lot of attention, expressing their sexual energy. But they definitely have a strong connection with their sexual energy in general, and it's pretty strongly developed. And when you have Pluto in the 5th house being the house of expressing, your sexuality, and Pluto being that deep, dark, strong sexuality. Again, like I said, people with Pluto in the 5th house, they have a strong sexual energy. They can express it very strongly. They can show it off a lot. They can use it to their advantage. Or it could just be a strong energy that you feel or see within them. Because again, the 5th house is what we express, and we're expressing sexual energy when we're talking about Pluto and the 5th house. So again, that's like two sexual energies combined. It's really creating a strong sexuality. So these people could be very sexually suggestive and expressive, okay? And also very sexually attractive too, okay? So Pluto, the 5th house people can use their sexuality to attract people as well too. Because the 5th house, again, it's about your sexual creative energy and how you kind of show it off, okay? You put that Pluto, that extra depth energy, People like this can really express themselves sexually and attract a lot of attention that way. Okay, be sexually attractive, use their sexual energy to attract people, impress people. So definitely a thing with Pluto in the 5th house. Also with Pluto in the 5th house, this is a very important placement to heal your childhood wounds. Okay, again, childhood is no joke. And these type of abuses that you go through really can affect your life and your psychology and your mental, emotional health and how you feel. It can cause lots of depressions, cause lots of wounds, cause lots of insecurities, especially when you're associating things with childhood. Okay, people like this cannot like children maybe, or not even not like children, but just have a sad feeling because they felt like their childhood was robbed from them. But regardless of what it is, it's very important for Pluto in 5th house people to heal their childhood wounds. You have to go back into your childhood, as painful as it is, and you got to heal your wounds. You got to express yourself. You got to understand those sad emotions that you've had associating with your childhood. You know, you got to go into them. You have to release them, get therapy, you know, do that shadow work. Go back into, you know, what you remember of your childhood and try to comfort yourself and understand what was going through. Try to forgive yourself for the things that you had no control over. You know, lots of wounds coming from your childhood. So it's so important for Pluto in 5th house people to do that shadow work of healing those insecurities with children. Okay, there's lots of ways to do it. You get therapy. You know, you can go back into your memory and try to, you know, unravel all those emotions from your childhood, those painful emotions, allow them to release those energies. Okay, go through them, comfort yourself, have conversations with yourself, go get therapy. Okay, even try to like be around children, maybe try to have a fun time with them, and so that you can get more comfortable and reconnect with your childhood self. There's just so many childhood wounds that you need to go over and heal, and healing your childhood wounds is such an important thing for Pluto in 5th house people. Very important. It's an assignment and something that you have to do so that you can become whole again. You can feel good again, but you got to get down into those roots and, you know, deal with those insecurities, okay? Because they're gonna have a serious effect on your mental health, your mental and emotional health. All right, so very important to do that healing with your childhood, and go get help, go see therapy. Okay, have time for yourself to go through those memories, as painful as they are, because that part of you is really gonna need healing. Like Pluto in 5th house, that child part of you, you know, it needs healing, it needs integration. Sometimes Pluto in 5th house people are so dissociated from their childhood that they don't even express themselves as, you know, a child would, in terms of like having fun and being playful, you know, everything that has to do with the 5th house, all those things, that freedom, that fun, that playfulness, that leisureness. A lot of times, Pluto in 5th house people are so traumatized from it that they don't even associate themselves with those very important, healthy emotions and expressions, which is happiness, having fun, pleasure, leisure. Pluto in 5th house people could be scarred by these things and disconnect themselves. And it's so important to integrate those feelings of leisure or funness, those type of activities and energy back into your life. And as painful as it is, you should do it so that you can slowly but surely heal yourself. And you'll notice that as time goes by, as you keep trying to integrate these feelings and keep doing the shadow work and allowing those painful feelings to release, it'll get easier to have fun. It'll be easier to express your playful side. It'll slowly but surely get easier as you're healing and going through these emotions and allowing those childhood wounds to release and just express those feelings. The load, the depression, the sadness that you feel associated with the childhood will slowly start to leave, okay, as you keep doing the shadow work. And you'll see that you can be around children. You can be playful yourself. You're not feeling, you know, all this trauma and this pain when you enter into that phase of leisure and fun and just expressing yourself. You know, you can do it more freely. You feel less pain, less weight, less baggage associated with it. You'll be able to integrate that childhood part of yourself back into your life. And you could just have issues expressing yourself. Okay, Pluto in the 5th house can make you very shy. It can make you hard to like dress up in a way that makes you feel happy. Just expressing yourself whichever way, your personality, your energy, you can shy away from that. All those childhood wounds and that abuse that you've gotten can, again, make you shy away from those fun, expressive expressions, okay? And just your personality in general. So that wound can cause a shadow over your spirit, basically. Another thing with Pluto in the 5th house is that these people can have a very deep, dark, creative expression, okay? 5th house deals with our creativity, how we express ourselves, so it's very creative. It can deal with fashion, it can deal with performing, it can deal with the arts. But when you have Pluto here, Pluto gives it like a dark energy, a more deep energy. So, you know, you can express yourself in a deep way. Maybe the fashion that you wear, the clothes that you wear are very dark. Okay, maybe you have a cool, dark, emo type of theme. Okay, whatever it is, maybe you write poetry and you write very dark, deep poems, you know, based off the darkness and the things that you've experienced. Whatever it is, creatively, you like to express yourself in a very deep, dark way. So definitely a thing to understand with Pluto in the 5th house people, that they have a creative side to themselves that has a lot of depth, has a lot of darkness, and is very creative and artistic at the same time. So also with Pluto in the 5th house, because your childhood had trauma, you had trauma associating with your childhood and your innocence, basically, like, you can have issues with children. Maybe you might not want to have children. Okay, maybe you don't like being around too many children, you know. It could trigger lots of emotions and painful memories. Or it could just make you feel like, I'm not into this childhood energy. It wasn't cool for me. You know, my childhood wasn't really that cool, so being around children is just, like, the energy could be draining for you. Or you can just not want to have children. You know, people Pluto in the 5th house could be like, you know, nope. My childhood was enough. I don't even want to have children. You know, I don't want to, you know, manifest children or anything like that. I have to deal with it until I can heal myself and deal with myself. So children in general, whether it be connecting with them, being around them, or just literally having children, could be an issue for you. You could have issues having, you know, children or being around children. Pluto in the 5th house can also manifest, you know, trauma when you have a child. So, you know, you might have a child and the child, you know, something can happen. You know, maybe you have a miscarriage, you know, with Pluto in the 5th house, or maybe your child's sick. There could be some type of emotional or trauma or some type of obstacle when you actually have children. So maybe with Pluto in the 5th house, it may be not even a good idea to have children yet until you've healed your childhood wounds. Okay, so very important thing to understand, because sometimes, you know, when you have karma in a certain placement, it might be, when you have Pluto in a certain placement, which is negative karma, you might want to heal the issues that deal with that placement first before getting involved. Like, so again, like 5th house dealing with children, it's probably smart to heal your childhood wounds first before having a child, because if you have a child, it's almost like you're just causing more baggage and trauma to you. So my suggestion for Pluto in the 5th house people is heal your wounds first, your childhood wounds first, before you even have children, because that children could just be another baggage, another form of baggage for you. Okay, and there could be trauma with that child. There could be issues with that child, accidents, like problems, you know, that cause you trauma. So definitely make sure that you heal your childhood wounds before you have children, because that's the whole point of Pluto in the 5th house. So heal your childhood wounds first before having children, because you're literally causing more problems. And like I said, it's definitely your responsibility as Pluto in the 5th house to heal that. So it's gonna be hard to heal your childhood wounds if you are having children to take care of, because now you don't have any time to take care of yourself, because now you got to take care of another child, and that's reinforcing your lack of freedom in childhood and expression. Okay, it's reinforcing that. So please heal your wounds before having children. Pluto in the 5th house, people. So yes, that is Pluto in the 5th house. Okay, Pluto in the 5th house. It's a very serious placement. All Pluto placements are very serious. This one really like touched my heart because there's so much, abuse going on, towards children in this world. I mean, I've been seeing things like sex trafficking, childhood abuse. I've been seeing so much stuff going on in the world of how people take advantage of children. And so this placement, to me, it just hit my heart in a sense that, like, your childhood is such a precious, innocent part of you. It's really leisure. It's really fun. It's really your spirit and how you express yourself. This is why children are so innocent in their expression. They're not like adults. Adults were like moody, like pissed off. We have all these responsibilities. We can't express ourselves naturally because we got to be responsible. But children, they have this innocence, this freedom, this spirited energy. And when Pluto comes in here and there's abuse, it totally steps on their innocence, and it could really mess them up for the rest of their lives. Our childhood is so sensitive to us, and it could be so hard for you to gain back that part of yourself that's free and fun and childlike. And we're so trained to grow up so quickly, and Pluto in the 5th house can do this, make you grow up so quickly because of so much of the serious issues that you deal at such a young age. But growing up so quickly is so bad to our spirit, which again is our natural sense of fun and leisure. And when you deal with these emotional, traumatic situations at such a young age, which is so sad, it breaks your spirit. It breaks your spirit. Pluto in the 5th house is almost like the breaking of someone's spirit. And that spirit is your natural light, your natural personality, your natural expression, leisure. And when children go through these types of abuses, that light gets completely tarnished. That natural spirit, that natural happiness, that natural glow in their eyes, that just gets completely crushed and tarnished. And I've seen it happen, and I can see how this can happen with Pluto in the 5th house. And I see how it connects to Pluto in the 5th house, how it connects to child abuse in general, all in this world that it happens with, So it's a very difficult placement, but it's so important to go back into those wounds and to do that very hard work of healing. But it's so beneficial, and it's your only way to truly gaining back your power, gaining back your childhood, gaining back that free self-expression and self-leisure, So, I just pray for the world and for all the children that are suffering, because this really, hit home for me. It really was, a deep topic, in my opinion, to talk about. Sexual abuse, all those things are real. These things really happen in the world, and it's incredibly difficult and incredibly challenging. And Pluto just isn't no joke, like I said, like with this Pluto series, like I can't sugarcoat the things that Pluto manifests. Like, this is real thing, like childhood sexual abuse, those are real things, and they can really damage yourself. And, we have to bring awareness to this. But because we're talking about natally, it's personal. Heal these childhood wounds. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys learned something from this. If you did, you could book a reading with me. I do astrology readings, including tarot. All you have to do is email me at samastralreadings@gmail.com. Also, check out my music, my little videos. All of that will be in the description box below. And I'll check you guys out on the next video.